Hi everyone, it's Samantha from the Dancing Soap Dish here. It's time for another YouTube collaboration event where I get together with other Melt and Pour Soap YouTube creators and we all release videos at the same time on a certain subject. So all the collaboration videos are now live and available on this special collaboration playlist. There will be a link at the end of this video so you can go on and continue to watch all the other videos. All the collaborators have worked incredibly hard to bring you their videos tonight, so I ask that you please watch all the videos in the special collaboration playlist. Give the videos that you do watch a thumbs up. Plus, don't forget you can subscribe to a creator's channel if you love their content and you want to see more of it in the future. Okay guys, let's get started. So the theme for this collaboration is rebatching melt and pour soap. So it's time to have a conversation about scraps. Yes, I'm talking about soap scraps. Now, I am a definite scrap hoarder. I just keep every little single smidge of melt and pour soap that I have left over in the vain hope that I'll find something to do with it one day and it will definitely get used. So here is a collection that has been amassed over the past 3 years or so. And it mainly consists of leftovers, trimmings, unused embeds, soap experiments, and even some prototypes. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to separate it all into the individual colors and weigh it all out so I know how much of each color I have. This isn't even all the colors I have, by the way. I picked out all the pretty colors, but I've also got, a collection of white scraps, black scraps, brown scraps, gray scraps, even a whole collection of just transparent scraps as well, which I'll also be using a little bit today. Now, believe it or not, there is over 2 kilograms of soap scraps here. And my goal today is to show you how you can rebatch soap scraps en masse into some really beautiful looking soap bars. So I'm going to start with yellow because this is the color with the least amount of scraps that I have. As you can see, some of this is interesting, but a lot of it really is just trash. You got to wonder why I kept some of this, but like I said, I'm a bit of a hoarder and I'm going to show you today that you can absolutely use it. So I've got myself here a little glass measuring cup, and I've got these cute little flower molds. Now the reason I selected these is because they've got some really interesting shapes and they're a great size. They're about 2 inches, 5 centimeters in diameter. But yeah, if you've got like a soap mold or something similar, some flowers or something that are a really interesting shape, I want to put 20 to 30 grams of soap in these flowers. That's what they tend to hold. And what I'm doing is I'm just putting together, weighing out my scraps basically in this little measuring cup. I'm going for some light yellow scraps this time round. I've melted it down in the microwave and I'm just going to pour it into one of these little flower molds. Then I'm going to go back and weigh out another 20 to 30 grams. This time I'm going to use the golds and the darker yellows. I have these little mosaic tile embeds left over from when I was doing my mosaic soap series. I'll keep some of those. I'll keep some of the larger ones, but I don't need all of them, so the rest of them are going to get melted down too. So I just made that up to another 30 grams. See how that's a darker yellow there? That's a really pretty color, and I'm going to use that too. Okay, so while those are setting up, I'm just going to move on to my next color, which is the pink. So if I tip out all the scraps that I have here, I'm just giving them a bit of a sort. I like to have a really good variety. So transparent soap, opaque soap, dark soap, light soap, the whole shebang, sort of shimmery and mica, maybe even a little bit of glitter. I suggest when you first start with a color that you do the transparent soap first. Before it has a chance to sort of get contaminated with any of the opaque soap. I want a little bit more of this transparent pink, so I've actually gotten some of my transparent scraps to add to that to make it up to 30 grams, and I'm going to pour it here into this pretty flower. And then basically you just move on to whatever you've got. So I'm going to melt down. So this was an actual soap that I made and it has a bunch of different colors on it, but when I melt it down it's predominantly pink, so that's going to work fine. You can't really even tell any of those other colors were in there. Same with this embed here, it had some blue and some green on it, but when I melt it down it comes out sort of like a pinky purpley color. It's a beautiful color actually, so that's fine as well. I'm going to move on to just sort of this dirty pink here. I am trying to keep sort of like colors together. just so I get like a nice range of colors. So I'm pulling out all of the dirty pink that I had there, and that came out beautifully. So another pink rose this time. There we go. And maybe the rest of this cut up soap bar. I melted down a little bit extra because I want to fill up a flower. But then also I'm just going to do a little smidge into this one here just to try and create like an interesting shape. And then I will continue. These are my bright pinks. So I'm hoping, oh yeah, that's very bright pink. That'll look lovely. Perfect. And finally, just scraping together all of these crumbs, basically. That is what they are. I also found a little bit more. This was a bit of a shimmery pink and some more crumbs in this bag. Teeny tiny bits of soap. I don't even know why I kept these. But here we go. I'm going to melt that down too for my very last one. And I've got quite the assortment of little pink flowers here. It's looking really great. So just going to check my yellow now. So these are still very warm and very soft, but they're firm enough for me to demold. So I'm just going to move them over here just to cool down and to harden up a bit more. But basically, because they set up so quick, I'm able to just move through all of my colors, just constantly pouring little flowers in different colors and then demolding the flowers as I need to use the soap molds again. I'm really looking for a variety. So like I said, I want dark colors, light colors, shimmery colors, sparkly colors. If yours are if you haven't got that variety, you can at this stage add some mica, or in this case here, I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle. You can add a little bit of glitter. Again, less is more because the glitter does tend to sink and so does the sparkle, so you don't want too much. I just melted down this one, which had some purple with some gold mica in it. That makes a great color too. And there we go. Okay, so now it's time for the next step. I've finished melting down all my different colors into all these cute little flowers. And I'm going back to the yellow because that was the color I started with. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to now cut up all of my flowers and any other larger scraps that I have. So the flowers I'm just cutting into quarters, sometimes a little bit more. Again, I'm looking for interesting shapes. So sometimes it might be cutting them in half or quarters or even sixths. I want everything to be a similar size because that helps with the melting. But here I've turned all my yellow scraps into sort of some interesting chunks. So there we go. Here is the pink I was working on. I've also I melted down some of my white scraps as well. So I've got some opaque and also some pearlescent white here. Some other scraps. Here are the pink flowers that I made. And again, I'm just going to cut up all of these flowers into chunks. Interesting pieces such as this, I'm going to leave as they are because they might create a point of interest when I'm doing my next step. But other than that, like I said, everything's just getting cut up into this beautiful collection of pink chunks. There we go. Here's some of the orange ones I did. Again, just gonna cut this up. Like I said, looking for interest. So, you might cut things into strips, or even if you've got sort of like a bigger circle, you can cut it into wedges. Just looking for interesting shapes. And basically, by the end of an afternoon, I had taken all of my scraps and turned them into a beautiful collection of chunks. So here we go here. So again, still not soap bars, but they're on their way. Let's take a look. Love that transparent pink. That is amazing. Lots of interesting colors here, lots of variety, which is, again, is what I said I was going for. I did leave some of the scraps untouched. This is actually from an advent calendar. It's got the number 4 on it. Here's a Christmas tree. Some beautiful blues here. This is the one that had the sparkle in it. Some of the soap has mica on the outside. Some of it's got mica on the inside, like this one. And there's a pretty swirl there too. All in all, I think it's just a great collection of chunks. Okay, so here's where things get a little crazy, because believe it or not, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these soap chunks, put them inside a soap mold, and then melt them down in the microwave in the mold. So you need something microwave safe to support the bottom of your mold. I'm going to use this bamboo board here. I've got this hexagonal shaped single cavity mold. I am going to put it on the scales because I have enough yellow scraps here to do 2 soaps. So I'm just going to weigh out half of what I need. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to position my scraps inside the mold in an interesting way. So putting anything interesting sort of down in the bottom, making sure that I don't have 2 chunks the same color next to each other. And I'm just going to sort of build myself like a patchwork quilt, I suppose, of soap chunks inside this mold. Now make sure that you can go a little bit higher than the mold, but make sure nothing's sticking out the side so that it all melts down inside the mold. Happy with that now. Take a look at that. So there's just a bunch of chunks in there. I'm going to put them on my bamboo board, place it in the microwave, and melt it until about 3/4 of it is melted. Not all the way. And then when I take it out, I'm going to push down whatever chunks are left into the liquid soap and spray it with some alcohol just to get rid of any surface bubbles. Now I have way more orange chunks than I did yellow chunks, so I'm actually working with a bigger mold. So this is a 15 by 10 centimeter or 6 by 4 inch rectangular mold. Again, I'm supporting it on the bottom with my bamboo board. I have over 400 grams of orange scraps here, so I'm thinking I could fill up this mold and then cut it into 4 bars of 100 grams. So again, what I am doing is I am placing my chunks down into the mold just in an interesting pattern, making sure that no chunks, 2 colors the same and next to each other, and just trying to come up with, something a little bit interesting. I have never done this on this scale before. I've only ever just used like the smaller hexagonal mold that I used for the yellow. So I'm gonna see how this goes. Here we go. I'm gonna stick this gold in there. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. So basically once you've done the bottom, you can just sort of pile the rest of the chunks on top. Make sure they're all tucked in nice and neat. Okay, here goes nothing. All right, so I'm putting it in the microwave, and I can tell as soon as I bring it out that this soap is overcooked. I have left it in there for too long. Definitely way more than 3/4 of it is melted. I am going to push down what little chunks there are left, but I think I did stuff that one up. That's not really how it's supposed to look. So I'm determined to make this work, so I moved on to the blue. I have some really great sea glass mosaic tiles left over there that I've put in the corner. But basically I have over 400 grams of the blue scraps too, so I'm using the same size mold. And I just sort of put some of the interesting things down towards the bottom, and I've just piled the rest on top. When I removed it from the microwave, I can already tell that this was done much better. I pushed down all those chunks and gave it a spray with the alcohol, but I'm loving that swirl that I've got on the back here, and that's looking much more promising. So moving on to the purple, I'm using an even bigger mold because I have over 600 grams of soap scraps. Look at this one, that's beautiful. Look at that swirl in there. I'm going to put that one sort of side down. Maybe it'll show up on the surface of the new soap, maybe it won't. Take a look at this transparent piece here. It's got the cracked ice effect in it, so another interesting piece there. These 2 here were cut from a bar that I made. See the 3 layers there? I've got white and purple and clear, so that's really interesting. I'll put those down sort of in different positions, just basically to see if it makes any difference. This is one great big experiment, and I'm just trying to see what works, what doesn't work, and just hopefully learn something along the way. All right, so I've gotten to the end of my purple here, and it's time to put that in the microwave. Interestingly enough, I noticed when I took it back out of the microwave that some of the soap that I actually put on the bottom was floating on the top. So somehow it had managed to move itself from under all the other scraps and float on the top, which I thought was quite interesting. So I'm moving on to the green now, and I thought I'd try something different. I'm going to take this piece of advent calendar soap here, see how it's got some mica on it. So I think that mica might just sort of pool into a nice little bit of gold shimmer on the surface of the soap. So I've plonked that in the middle there. And I also have this beautiful piece of transparent soap, again with the cracked ice effect there. So I'm going to put that down the bottom too. I've surrounded it with all of these beautiful sea glass mosaic pieces, and just sort of adding some other interesting pieces and colors too. Okay, so let me give you a closer look at what I've actually been doing. So I pile all of my soap chunks into my soap mold. Then I place it in the microwave and I turn it on for about a minute. Okay, but I watch it like a hawk the entire time. Don't ever put it in the microwave and walk away from it. You have to watch it. I wish I could say, if you have X amount of grams that you need to cook it for X amount of time, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way because people will use different soap bases, which will have different melting temperatures and different melting speeds. So you need to find out what works for the type of soap base that you're using. So after a minute, my soap looked like this, and you can see through the sides that it really isn't melted much at all. I can still see definite chunks. So I actually turned it round because, microwaves do tend to heat unevenly, and I put it in for another minute. And then after the second minute, it looked like this. And so looking at it, I could definitely see some of it had melted. Then I also had a peek at the top there. I could just see about 3/4 of it was melted, and there was still a few little chunks sticking up. And that's when I knew it was time to take it out and push down what chunks were left. But you can see if I give it a wobble there, most of it is liquid. But this is what you need to work out, how long you need to microwave yours for to sort of get to this stage. This is the ultimate stage that you should be cooking it for, basically. Okay? And again, spray with the alcohol to remove those surface bubbles and let that set. So here I am doing the pink, and again putting down some of the more interesting pieces into the bottom of the mold. I did keep one little cube of that whole bar of soap that I cut up that had a little bit of the different colors on it. I'm going to whack that in there too because I'm curious to see what happens with that. But again, just basically over 400 grams of the pink chunks. So I've used that large mold again and melted it down, giving it a spray as I go, and just making sure all those chunks are pushed below the surface of the soap. And finally, I'm just putting together my last yellow soap. The first one I did set, and I've removed it from the mold, and now I'm going to use the mold to melt down my second yellow soap. There we go. And that's it. Okay, so it's time for the grand reveal. Here is all the soap I've just made, still upside down. I know what kind of pattern I was going for, but I wonder if any of you have guessed what sort of pattern we're going to get. Now, if you said marble, you are correct. Look at this. This is what has happened to the surface of the bars. They have this beautiful marble effect on them, and they also have this great texture. If you have a look as well in the light, you can see that there are grooves and wobbles and dints and stuff, just like natural stone would have. The back is looking a little bit wrinkly, but we can fix that. So I'll show you how to do that soon. Now let's take a look at the green. I'm loving the variation in the colors here, all the way from light to dark. And wow, I was not expecting that. When I've turned it over, I've seen that advent calendar piece that I put in the middle is actually still intact. You can even see the number 4 and the mountains and the snow. It hasn't melted down at all, which is interesting. But there's some other great patterns on here. There's a beautiful marbling effect throughout, and I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's some sparkle mica that's sunk to the bottom and is on the surface, giving it a beautiful glisten as well. Okay, now it's time for the blue. Let's turn this over. And again, we've got some fantastic marbling. I can even see some of those mosaic tiles that I put in the bottom, still sort of discernible there. But there's lots of different colors. There's sparkle and shimmer, and not just marbling, but some great swirls too. And yeah, the back looks great as well. All right, so here's my biggest one. This is the purple, over 600 grams here, this block. I'm loving the color of this purple on the back. That's just a really pretty shade. The soap is maybe a little bit overcooked just in the corners here. It's getting a little bit rubbery. But anyway, let's turn it over. Wow, look at that. Here's another different effect altogether. There's actually a really fine sprinkling of glitter throughout here. Again, I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up. But what it looks like has happened is the transparent purple has sort of melted first and gone to the bottom of the mold, and then you've got all the the swirling opaque purple behind it, which is creating a really interesting effect here and giving the soap a lot of depth as well. That's really nice. I like that. Okay, moving on to our pink, and I can't help but think of Barbie when I see this. It's such a Barbie color. And again, we've got some really amazing effects here too. Some shimmery white. Here's a little bit of greenish blue coloring at the side here. That must have been that block that I left in. But it's a little imperfection, similar to the imperfections that you find in real stone. There's some beautiful colors and a little bit of glitter here as well. I just think that turned out so well. All the beautiful pinks. There's some really great marbling happening here underneath this transparent pink. Again, another lovely bar. Okay, so now it's time to address this very sorry looking block of orange here. So see this rubbery, light, foamy texture on the back? The soap has gotten too hot and it started to boil. So the soap base gets rubbery and hardens up and floats to the surface. So you can see very fine bubbles there on the side from where it boiled as well. If we turn this over and have a look, we have a very, very different effect. So we can still see some pretty swirls and some variations in color, but definitely not the marbling that we saw in the other blocks. There's a bit of shimmer on there. There's quite a bit of gold mica in there. I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up. And a little bit of marbling. It's pretty, but it's certainly been put in the microwave for a little too long, and I didn't get the effect that I wanted. So we have some very interesting rebatches here, but I know some of you have got to be thinking, what happened to the red? So if you recall, I had a variety of red scraps, and what I decided to do was actually to pair them with some transparent soap and also some gold soap. Basically due to these trimmings that I have here from a Christmas soap that I had made previously. And there's a layer of red and a layer of transparent soap, and in between there's some remnants of the gold mica from the gold Christmas pattern that was in the soap. And so I thought, yeah, that's a great color combination, and I want to see what sort of interesting pattern I can get. Now I don't have enough soap to do a big slab like the others, so I'm back to the hexagonal molds. But I did have enough to fill 4 cavities, so I thought, I might try, again, something I haven't done before is actually melting it all down in 4 separate cavities in the microwave and see how that goes. So I organized my chunks in my cavities as per usual and popped them in the microwave to melt them down about 3/4 of the way. Pushed down any of the chunks that were sitting above the soap. There was a little bit of overdone soap on the top there, so I just scraped that out. And here they are all set. Let's take a look. Okay, well, there's another interesting effect there. The gold mica that was in between those 2 layers has sort of made its way to the surface of the soap. There's a little gold star in this one, which was an interesting piece that I put down, and a little bit of gold shimmer there as well from a gold chunk that I had, as well as a lot of marbling of the red. Oh, this one here is interesting. Obviously this was clear soap here, and you can sort of see into the soap. There's also this fantastic diamond sparkle mica here. I didn't even know that was in there. That must have been in some of the mosaic tiles, perhaps. And this one again with that great sprinkling of gold there. That's a really fabulous effect too. I really like that. Just how beautiful and random that is. Yeah, another great effect. Okay, so to clean your bars up, you need to bevel the edges or trim them with a knife like I'm doing. And just have a close-up look at this cloth that I have here. It's got a rough texture, and this stuff is just like soap sandpaper. It's really great for being able to sort of sand down rough edges of your soaps, and in this case the back of the soaps, which were looking a little bit rough. So as you can see, that's come up much nicer now. So this is the rough edge. I'm just going to wipe it down the length of the cloth. Also maybe just give it a buff. Really great for buffing soap as well. It's made from wood cellulose, so it doesn't leave any lint or anything on the soap. You can buy it in sheets, or you can even buy it by the roll. I'll leave a link in the video description for anyone who's interested. But there you go. See, that's a much nicer and neater looking soap now. In terms of the slabs, what you need to do is, again, just trim off the edges. In case you're wondering, I'm not going to keep these trimmings. There is a limit to how many times you can rebatch melt and pour soap, so these trimmings are just going to go in the bin. But I'm going to mark out halfway vertically and horizontally on the bars. I'm going to cut this one open and have a look. Wow, look at that. Yeah, you see all those chunks that I pushed down underneath the surface of the soap. Some of those are still intact inside the soap. I'm just going to measure it to cut it the other way now. I should have measured and scored it before I started cutting, but I got a little too excited. Okay, here we go again. Oh, another great effect. Look at that. It's really looking marble-like. This guy in the corner here looks like a Pac-Man ghost. Yeah, very interesting. And swirls as well as chunks. It's very. Look at this. Yeah, look at this swirl in the corner here. Look at that. That's fantastic. I didn't do anything for that swirl. It just sort of made it by itself. These bars are very, very cool. Okay, so again, I'm using my cloth just to soften the edges, because I've got cut edges now as well as molded edges. So I'll smooth out the edges, and I'll also smooth out the back of each of these bars of soap. Let's have a look now. Oh my gosh, this is just fantastic. There's beautiful shimmer and sparkle and marbling and swirling and chunks. This is the back now that it's all been smoothed out. Amazing color variation. Just incredible. I'm so impressed with it. I did not expect these to turn out so well. That's very, very impressive. Okay, so just really, really quickly, I just want to show you what to do to fix up the back of the soap if you have overcooked it and you have that rubbery sort of soap thing happening. Basically, you can plane it. You can get yourself a planer and plane it off, but it's actually very, very soft, and you can just scrape it off with a knife, which is what I've done here. I've just scraped it all off with a knife, and now I'm buffing the soap as per usual. I've softened the edges as well. Here's how it's turning out. Again, it's pretty. It's just not the marbled effect I was going for. And it's a shame, because some of those orange chunks were really, really cool. Okay, so here we are, people. We have finally reached the end of an epic over 2 kilogram rebatch of melt and pour soap, from scraps into chunks and now into beautifully marbled bars. I'm going to show you some of the more impressive ones. Look at the marbling here on the corner, those little sort of white lines in the pink. It's amazing to me how it actually mimics real marble stone. This one here, I love this one with the sparkle mica and sort of the clear window into the center of the soap. This one is beautiful and shimmery. It's got some great color variation, a very sort of simple pattern on it. But unfortunately, I didn't get the marbling that I wanted. The yellow ones, yeah, really cool with the blocks of transparent there, which actually they're clear, but they look yellow because of the yellow behind them. Some really great effects there too. The green, oh man, what can I say about the green? Very interesting, the green bars. This one here, just fantastic. And if you look here, there's actually, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's a block of clear there that has the cracked ice effect still in it, still in the center of the soap, which is just astounding to me. Great swirls on the corners, in the middle where the bars have been cut in half as well. Just incredible. I really wasn't expecting the variation that I got, all the effects that I got from this technique. Just really, really beautiful and sparkly. So incredible. Those green ones are just amazing. Look at that. Look at that swirl in the corner. Incredible. I don't know if it just did that itself as it melted or if that was from me pushing down the chunks into it. I really don't know. This one as well, where you, again, swirls on the side, but you can also see some of the mosaic tiles still in there. Incredible variation on the back. A little bit of glitter and shimmer there. Just astounding. So, so pretty. There's another one. Great depth as well to the color all the way around. And as you use them, the pattern on the bars will just be constantly changing as you use them. It's fantastic. This one as well, beautiful glitter, beautiful marbled white throughout there, a little bit of mica shimmer as well. This one showing great depth with the transparent purple. A little bit, different sort of effect on the sides for this one because of how it melted, I suppose. It's got more like little long sort of swirls, but just beautiful. I am more than impressed with how these turned out, and I hope I have inspired you to do something similar with your scraps and give this technique a try. You can really do some fantastic things. Well, I really hope you enjoyed watching me transform all my soap scraps into some beautiful marbled bars. Please don't forget that this is part of a collaboration, and you can go on and watch the other videos in the playlist. There's other YouTube creators who will be sharing their favorite rebatching techniques for melt and pour soap. I highly recommend it. You're bound to learn something new. I certainly learned something new even just making this video. I actually really learned a lot about melt and pour soap making this video. So it is. Melt and pour soap is an amazing medium. It's definitely my favorite crafting medium, and you can just make some truly glorious things with it. So thanks for watching, guys. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you love what I do, and until next time, enjoy.